is the Revisionary Podcast with your host, Juan Carlos. The Revisionary Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Juan Carlos. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, the way this works is we bring on guests, usually it's a comedian, who tells us a nonfiction story about their life in which they wish things had gone a little bit differently. Afterwards, I give them an opportunity to retell that same exact story, except this time they get to change any of the facts or details about their story that they'd like, and then we discuss the impact of the changes that they've made. This week, we only have one quick announcement. Again, if you haven't already, please go ahead and participate in our contest. I misspoke last week, so I will make that correction. We're actually going to be drawing this weekend, so make sure that you go ahead and do it. The rules are pretty simple. Just make sure you're following the Revisionary Podcast. Take a picture of your 5-star rating on Apple, and then go ahead and send us a picture via our Instagram. And once you do that, you're entered in the contest, and it's a pretty easy way to possibly win $50. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Just go do it. With that being said, I'm really excited for this week's guest. We have William Green joining us. William Green is both a comedian and a storyteller. So he does this, as the kids say nowadays. So I'm really excited to talk to him. And, without any further ado, let's go ahead and see if we can get Will on the phone.
Hey, Will, how are you?
Doing good, man. Got a lot of things going on. I got a show coming up in Brooklyn. I run 2 shows, one called Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, people's stories about one time something happened to them in Brooklyn. And then I also do a show called Fat Girl Fridays that happens in Brooklyn, both of them once a month.
Fat Girl Friday, what's that about?
Fat Girl Fridays is a body positive show where they kind of celebrate women and bigger women. And it's not like a shame. You can come and dress how you want to, and we celebrate you. There's no shaming whatsoever. And it's funny and it's poetry and it's just a great event. Okay.
Yeah, I really like that. I love all these the body positivity movement that's going on right now. I really support it because I feel that, the images that are being pushed by the media are not an accurate portrayal of what, people, not even women, people, look like naturally. So, snaps to you for setting that up.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's very necessary. We grow up with these ideas of what we're supposed to look like. So half our life we spend hating what our body does look like.
Oh, absolutely. I spent a lot of times in my life thinking that I needed to have a 6-pack, but I realized, I just need to be happy with the 4-pack that I once had in my life, because now I have a keg and I don't, you know what, this is not about me. So,
yeah. Do you do the working out? Do you get up in the morning and do the running, jogging, stuff like that?
Yeah. Every morning I pick up a spoon, dip it in some food and lift it in my mouth and do, my bicep curls. You feel me? Like it's a daily thing. Every single morning. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a storyteller, right? How'd you get started in that?
I got started in storytelling when I used to do theater. When I was doing theater, everyone in theater wanted something outside of what they were doing. So you got a bunch of great minds working on someone else's great mind project. So for me, storytelling was about not only recanting the events, but capturing people. Like, it's like you have a cloud and everyone's waiting on the lightning. So you want everybody to look at the cloud until the lightning is delivered. And I just like being the cloud.
That's actually a phenomenal metaphor. Because like I said, I do stand up. And for me, I guess that lightning would be whenever I hit them with the punchline, you know what I mean? And the laughter erupts. But you're not necessarily looking for laughter, right? What are you looking for when you're telling a story exactly?
To me, a story evokes emotion. The difference in stand-up, I dabble with stand-up and theater also. The difference with stand-up is they want a timed delivery of laughter. With storytelling, it only evokes an emotion, whether happy or sad or fearful or frightful or joyous. It delivers an emotion, and the emotion is the payoff compared to the laughter. Because some laughter is fake, but emotions are all real.
You've named so many things. I'm going to have to do some soul searching now because now I'm questioning how much of the laughter has been fake my entire career. Thank you very much, Will. Thank you. This is exactly how I wanted to get my day started. No, I'm just kidding. So where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I've been in New York for probably 4 years now.
What brought you to New York, if you don't mind me asking?
My cousin at the time was working on The Color Purple, and we did theater together in Dallas, and we would work on projects together. So he was working on a project at The Color Purple. So he brought me up here as a comedy writer, someone to take a story that already exists, and it had some twists and turns and stuff like that, and some obscenities and stuff. And after the project was over, I stayed. And he went on to Chicago to go do Hamilton. And I stayed because I just couldn't see myself going back to Dallas after spending like 6 to 8 months in New York and partying and Broadway crowd. Of course, this is pre-COVID or whatever, but
of course,
I couldn't imagine going. I mean, I love Dallas. It's a great town, but I just couldn't imagine buying liquor at like 1 a.m. and all type of wild parties and then going back to Dallas.
Prohibition era.
The liquor store closes at 10. It's not even open on Sunday. The clubs close at 2:00, and it's not really safe to drive. I don't like.
Are you saying that those 2 extra hours make a difference? You really staying in the club till 4 or 5 in the morning?
Look, that's when you catch the stragglers. Okay, so sometimes you have a champion night where you go in there and you get the first runners up, and then sometimes it's just like, okay, who has a limp? And then that's what you
oh my
catch them away.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Someone once told me that nothing good happens after 2 a.m. If after 2 a.m. I wasn't having my fun, I was just going home to sleep. That was how it was for me.
Yeah, I was an overachiever. So I'd go to Waffle House or Denny's in the morning and be like, you still look kind of, yeah, okay. Your eyelashes in the soup bowl, but I can work with it.
Oh, my God. Wow. So why don't we go ahead and jump right into this story, because I have a feeling this is going to be wild, given off our brief conversation so far. William, the stage is yours. Go ahead and tell us your story.
I appreciate that. So I came from a abusive stepfather, and I didn't get it while my mom stayed with him. It's like I had this rage from my mom as a kid, and her motto was like, so I don't care, you get over it. But he was the financial provider, but he's very abusive. And I remember a story or a time where my mom decided that she was going to go to a separate church. And that's wild that they would get an argument about church. That's supposed to be the safe space. But we went to a different church, and he was a minister, and he found out. We walked in the door, and he started cussing us out right out of church. I was like, wow, no hello, no nothing. I still had my church fan in my hand. Right out of church, started cussing us out. And he sent us in our room, and he attacked my mom. And as a kid, I'm small. I'm not small anymore, but as a kid, I was small. So I run in the living room to try to stop this. I'm like, you're not going to lay a hand on my mother. Because as a young Black man, I feel like I'm semi-responsible for my mother, which I shouldn't, but I do. I run in the living room, and I'm looking him eye to eye. I'm like a 12-year-old kid. He's 6'3", probably 260, 270. Fat. I mean, no solid muscle anywhere, just like the blob, round shape, bowling ball with a head and a funny shaped face, yelling at the woman that I love and that I cherish. We're looking eye to eye, and I think we're getting ready to fight, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose. I have an older brother who runs out of the room. He runs up to my stepdad. He's taller than everybody in the room. Runs up to my stepdad, and he has a little bar in his hand about 9 inches long. And me and my stepdad are looking at each other eye to eye. We're getting ready to fight. And he kind of looks at me. I'm looking at him, and I look at my brother, and I look at the bar. I'm like, I wonder what he's doing with that little bitty bar in his hand. And so me and my stepdad are looking back eye to eye again, and my stepdad looks at the bar. He's like, I wonder what he was going to do with that little bar in his hand. My mom's yelling, and she's like, you guys cut that out. You guys stop it. She looks at the bar. She's like, why does big old dude got this little bitty bar in his hand? And we fought, and I lost. And I didn't understand how an adult could take that kind of power over a child. My brother hit him with the small bar, and just like I thought, it didn't faze him at all. He's actually a little bit pissed off when he hit him with the small bar. So that didn't go as planned. But my mom had enough this day, and she went and she got a small .22 pistol, And she pulled out the pistol. And she's like, "You're not going to hit us anymore." And me and my brother jumped up and we were like, "Yeah, you fat, blah, blah, blah," because we're kids and we've always wanted to say these things. We leave. At that time, I thought my life was safe. I thought I was leaving the person that was causing the torture in my life. And I thought that for a moment, I was like, this is what freedom feels like, because it genuinely felt like being a slave at the time. And I was being oppressed and I was being beaten. I was just like, wow, freedom. I got away. And so we go to my mom's stepsister or whatever, Black people fake related. Oh, that's my cousin from the third side. But we go to my mom's stepsister's house and she has a son. He finds out the story and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you guys out and we're gonna kick it." I'm a kid and I don't know what kick it means yet. I thought we were gonna hit arcade, maybe some pizza. It sounded like a great time to me. That was not true. He took us to pick up some girls. He told me to say I was 17. Told my brother to say he was 19 because he was tall. And these were, I'm trying to think of a delicate way to say it. They were promiscuous, fast. I'm going to say semi-hood rats because they could hold an intelligent conversation, but you couldn't tell by their attire that they were as intelligent as they were. And we needed somewhere to go. We were like, "Hey, where do we take the girls?" Because we couldn't get a hotel. And my brother had the genius idea that we should go back to the house that we just left because my stepdad works overnight. So, although a horrible idea, we did it anyway. We go back to the house. They smoke. I smoked for the first time in my life. It was amazing. The girl that I was supposed to be dating was a smoking professional. She was doing smoke tricks out of her teeth. She actually had a weird space in her teeth where she could blow like a little choo-choo train from all three dimensions, and one went up her nose and the other. It was very impressive at my age.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 12.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. Now, mind you, I've looked like an old man for a while, but I still was like 12. We get upset. We smoke, and we're just like, we're gonna trash this house because we thought it was a great idea. We were young. We had just got smoke for the first time, so we trashed the house. I mean, like pissed in the plants and just really tore down the blinds because we never thought we would ever go back. It's just like, I am rid of this place and I will never see it again. We go back to my godbrother's house. My mom wakes up that morning, and when I wake up, she's not there. My godmother makes us breakfast, and she explains to us why it's okay that my stepdad beats on my mom because they're married.
What?
And because they're married, that's between two adults, and that should not be any of our business. As a kid, I still knew that I was more powerful than most girls my age. And I still knew it wouldn't be a fair fight. So I would never fight a girl. That's just that I would never have in my mind oh, I beat up a girl, I'm a man. There's never been a bone in my body to think that it's fair to hit a woman. But the older generation of people have this mentality. They used to say when people would the police would come to your house, like, "Oh, it's my wife." Okay, well, it's not our problem. Men used to be able to beat up on their wife like it was legal as long as you were actually married to her. The girlfriend, you're going to jail, buddy. But the wife, the person that's supposed to love you the rest of your life, you're entitled to it. So they explained to us why it was okay. And this is a backwards mentality that I hate that I ever learned. But they explained to us why it's okay that a husband beats on their wife, which was horrible. And I totally disagree with.
Right.
My stepdad had an issue with fear or respect. And he wanted to be respected. Most Black men do. That's what most men do. I'm going to take it back even further. There's a whole "don't disrespect me." Most fights are started behind being disrespected. There's two ways to obtain respect. One is through fear, and one is through earning it. The one through fear will eventually wear off. When you earn it, it stays. So he obtained respect through fear. My mom went back that next morning to the house where he was, cleaned up everything that we had trashed, and was there waiting on him with his food to apologize to him. I didn't get it.
Right.
I didn't get it. But my mom had 2 kids and she didn't have a job. And she had 2 grown men, size-wise, to provide for her. And she had no way to do that. So I spent all this time upset with her because I thought she didn't care. She didn't give a damn. And it was the exact opposite. What it really was is she had no other way to provide, and she wanted to make sure that we were provided for her. And so the next morning when we go back, he decides he wants to take me fishing.
Right.
It was me and my brother, but my brother with fake asthma attacks. He was really good at it. Like, come time for an ass whooping, fake asthma attack. I was like, you mother. But yeah, he'd fake an asthma attack. So he was just like, I can't go fishing. I'm having an asthma attack.
Hold on. So sorry to interrupt. I might have missed this. How old was your brother?
My brother was like 14, 15.
Okay, so he was 3 years older. Got it. Okay.
Correct. But my brother is 6'6".
And you were how tall at this moment?
I was still 12. I was like 5'3" or something. I didn't get my growth spurt till I got like 14. Then I shot up to 6'2" myself. But for the longest, I was just short and fat. That's why I have this whole body complex.
Understood.
But yeah, he was 3 years older than me, and in his mind, the more he could stay away from my stepdad until he graduated, it would just be easy. He'd graduate and he'd leave. I was 12. I had a wow. Yeah. I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. And I said a bunch of stuff before we left the house that day when I thought we were never coming back. And I was pretty sure that he wanted to have some words about the stuff that I said.
Right.
So we get in his piece of crap Lincoln Town car, which was a nice car when we bought it. But because he has such a mood and aggravation problem, there was a flap on the roof that was flapping in the wind. He jumps out at a red light and just snatches it all the way off because it's pissing him off. That should have been a clue right there that there's something wrong with this individual.
Right.
This is not normal. You could have just got duct tape like everybody else, or duct taped it down, or took it to the dealership. But no, he tore it all the way up. So we're riding in a Lincoln Town car that you can see the wood or cardboard on top of it, because this genius has ripped the whole top of it off because he can't maintain or conduct himself when he gets upset. And this is the person, the maniac that I get in the car with to go fishing, which I actually hated at the time because it was with him.
Okay. Not the actual activity itself. Do you enjoy fishing?
No, I love fishing. Like, I'm from Texas. When I got grown, I would get me these little small hibachi grills. This is when I still ate meat. I would put a steak out there in the morning, go out there at 5 in the morning with like a 6-pack of beer, just me, my steak, and the fish. Oh, it was awesome. I love it when it's peaceful. I don't love it when it's tied to anxiety.
Right. No, that makes sense to me.
You know, that part got the best of me. Like, I didn't like being around him because I teetered behind saying what I really wanted to say and walking on eggshells. Because when I walked on the eggshells, sometimes I still got hit. So I kind of just wanted to go for it. And right around 12 to 14 is where I kind of got there. What they say, I start sniffing my own piss. You know, I start kind of feeling like I can take a punch. I haven't learned to throw one yet, but I got pretty good at taking them. So I knew by that time. And so we get on the road to go fishing. And if you're in Texas, Texas is a huge state. You can drive from one side of Texas to the other side, and it takes 24 hours, the state itself. Mm-hmm. I'm in New York. You can drive from Texas to New York in 23 hours.
Yeah.
So across Texas is huge. So we go fishing at somewhere where he could have easily dumped my body. It's dark. There's no one there to save me. And he reminded me that along the way that, ooh, hate for us to break down out here because would nobody ever find us. Just giving me these great scary movie vibes. And so we finally, and he has a boat, which he was infatuated with because he's a black man with a boat. And I'm sorry, as much as I disliked him, he's a black man with a boat. I'm just like, yeah, I'll give you that. You know what I'm saying? He's a black man with a boat. So we get to the place where we're going to go fishing. And I don't want to get in the boat. The boat's kind of creaky. The waves are kind of high that day. He's fat. I'm fat. I don't feel comfortable. This is a one fat person boat, and you're already filling it up. So I didn't want to get in the boat. So I stayed on land, he goes out and he goes on the boat. This is before cell phones, so I was actually stuck fishing. If I had a cell phone back then, I would have just texted the whole time and pretended like I was fishing.
Right.
He goes out on the boat, and he's so fat that the boat is almost coming out of the water because he's sitting at the back by the motor, and he's like 300 something. He's almost 300. He's a big guy, and the boat was kind of tilting up like a speedboat, but his fat ass wasn't going anywhere. So he keeps passing by the dock to make sure that I'm fishing, that I'm using the right reel or rod or tackle or whatever. And in my mind, I'm just like, I hope you hit a tree or something. You know, I'm just hoping that he runs into another boat, because that's, to me, is Satan incarnate in a black body, you know? And it's just like, I don't want Satan to come back. And at one point, and I thought it was actually my birthday, he was passing by and he was going a little bit fast, and the motor falls off the back of the boat. So he's going by fast and making this little smug look, and the motor falls off, and he just slowly, so he has no motor. So apparently when you have a boat, there's a string that you tie to the motor in case it falls off.
Right.
He forgot to tie the string to the boat itself. So he's in a boat, the motor is falling, and he doesn't have the string tied to anything. In his deductive reasoning, he decides, but before he made the decision, he stood up and he looked at me. Mm-hmm. I'm standing on land. I am cheering like I'm at a Broadway play. I'm just like, oh, yes. This is actually one of the best days of my life, because he's pissed off. He can't get to me, and he's fat. So he's going to cool off by the time he gets to me, because he has a lot of like stroking to do with his hands before he gets up there. So he decides to jump in the water after the motor. I don't know if you know how gravity works, but motor is pretty freaking heavy. It's going to sink a lot faster than you can get down there and get the motor. Mm-hmm. So at one point, he gets in the water and he grabs the rope. He didn't grab the motor, but he grabbed the rope. And he has the rope, and the boat starts to float off. So he has a choice between holding the rope and chasing the boat. And at this time, I have found me a tree, and I climbed up in the tree because I don't want to miss a thing. This is making my day. And I climb up in the tree because he's looking for somewhere to project his anger. And as long as he can continue to look at me, I know where it's going. But when he's in that water and he can't see anybody around to save him, in my mind, I thought he's going to drown. I was like, he's fat. He can't swim that long. You know, it's so far way back. Surprised me, but I was upset. But so he has a choice. So he finally decides to let go of the rope and go swimming after the boat. Every time you swim after a boat, you make waves with your hands. So as he's swimming after the boat, he's really pushing the boat further away. By this time, I feel like for the first time, I know what joy is, because I feel like there is no way that he's going to catch the boat and get out of the water. So in my mind, I'm thinking of, well, I'm going to tell him that he told me I can have his truck, because I like the truck. I was like, he said I can have his truck. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to walk up the street and call somebody. Because, I mean, I can't go out there and save him. So I thought he's going to drown. And I found out a lot about myself because I wasn't mad. Like I was like serial killer giddy. Like, like I wasn't mad about it. And that's just, as a kid, to think that you see somebody drowning and you're okay with it, that's a little bit of dementedness. And so he finally ended up getting to the boat. And the motor is long gone at this time, but he has the boat. And he has to swim back with his hands. And it's hours. It's a ways. And then finally a boat passed by and they let him hold on to the boat, and he brings his boat back up. And he's pissed. I mean, he's soaking wet. He's gotten wet. He's pissed. And that leaves little me to receive the brunt of his anger. So he gets in the car. I get in the passenger seat. He slams the door. I mean, so hard that my heart skips a beat. Mm-hmm. And he looks at me like 12, 13. You drive. I'm sorry. You drive. Mind you, we're in a country town in Texas. I've had maybe one or two around the parking lots, but no real formal I stole cars training or anything like that, you know.
Right.
So he said, you drive. So he gets out. I get around in the driver's seat, and he starts to yell at me about what I'm doing wrong about driving. And I realized very fast, I was like, he has anger that he needs to place somewhere. I'm going to get it. So he's going to teach me how to drive after he was pissed off because he saw me laughing at him drowning. Kind of a bad play.
Yeah.
So we get on the road, and when we get on the road, I'm learning, you know, so I'm trying to get my balance of where I sit in the lane. It's a big car, you know, and things like that. So as I'm going down the highway, I finally pick up speed and get a little confidence. And there's a big freaking 18-wheeler coming. It's a 2-lane street. I kind of edge over to the shoulder a little bit. And he's like, no, you get back in the middle lane and you stop being a girl. And I was like, no, it's an 18-wheeler coming towards us.
So for those of you guys who are listening, I just want to make it abundantly clear to you guys, he did not say girl, but Will here is a pleasant enough person that he changed the wording so not offend anyone around there. But just know that he did not say girl.
Very correct. Very correct. And so he's yelling at me to stay in my lane because he's teaching me that this is going to make me a better man, to not back down from an 18-wheeler when I'm in a car. That being said, as an older man, I understand the point that he was attempting to deliver. Wrong way. So I'm going full speed, and there's an 18-wheeler coming full speed. In my mind, I'm going to end up in this guy's lap. It's easy for him to tell me to go and stay in my lane because he's on the passenger side. He'll be spared, but I'd be completely messed up. But he was right. The 18-wheeler passed my rearview mirror very close, but it did not hit. And the lesson that he preached to me the whole way home was be a man. You don't be scared of anybody. You stop. And I'm hearing these words, you know, you don't be scared of anybody. You don't take anything from anybody. And in my mind, I'm just like, I should just punch him now because that's what he's telling me. He's telling me not to deal with him. So we stop at Burger King because I'm a fat person. He's a fat person. He can win me over most of the time with food. We stop at Burger King. He gets 10 Whoppers. He's like, let me get 10 Whoppers, some extra mayo, some onions, some extra pickles, because the Whopper's not big enough for him. He wants to add to the size of the Whopper after already getting 10 of them. We get to the window, and apparently at one time, Burger King changed the size of their cups. They used to give you a small water cup. They used to give you a small soda cup for water. And then at one time, they transitioned to this little bitty clear plastic cup that gives you ice. That apparently happened that weekend. So we get to the window. He gets his 10 Whoppers. He's like, let me get a cup of water.
10 Whoppers? Okay.
10 Whoppers. 10 plus stuff. He added extra pickles, extra onions. He made the Whopper bigger to make sure that he would get more food.
How do you finish more than one Whopper?
Oh, I'm talking about he's going to get about 3 in himself. And that was in one sit. That was in one feeding. One feeding he would get. Sometimes he would take the top of it off and make it like a triple Whopper.
Sorry, my mouth isn't big enough for that. I can't imagine. It's not important. Go on. Sorry, Will.
So he's at the window, and they give him this little bitty glass of water, and he freaks. He freaks out horrible. It's a little 17-year-old girl behind the window, and he goes cussing her out. You're going to give me a really glass of water? Arguing back and forth. So he yells until she finally says, okay, fine. She's getting ready to give him a bigger glass of water, and he's explaining to me why she's an idiot. She's standing here with the window open, and he's telling me why she's an idiot. She hears this conversation and makes my day by taking the glass of water, a large, and splashing it directly in his face. Nice. In the car, in front of me. The best day of my life. I will never forget it. It was just an awesome day. It's just something that sticks out of my childhood where I learned a bunch of lessons about people and about myself. And it had a good payoff. Like when he got splashed with that water, in my mind, I was just like, you're having a bad day with water today. Like it made my childhood. I held on from that till I was 12, until I was old enough to actually fight back.
So, look, you keep calling it the best day ever, but I don't know if you had the best day ever or the worst day ever, and you're just looking at the silver lining, if I'm being quite honest with you.
Maybe.
That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry that you had to endure this in your childhood. You know, I wish that we lived in a world where no one had to endure difficult adults, because as a child, you're not in control of your surrounding and your environment. So I wish everyone had an environment that was positive for them. And then the last thing I wanted to say is the irony is not lost on me that you run a show that promotes body positivity, yet you kept highlighting how fat this man was, almost to a point of ridicule throughout your entire story. I just want to make sure we put that out there.
Yeah. Because, as a kid, those are your thoughts. Your genuine thoughts are like, a kid has no filter. So a kid will be like, he's fat, and then you become an adult and you realize somebody might have spent, 6 weeks eating salad and trying real hard. And then you say he's fat and he goes home and cuts himself. So as an adult, you kind of realize that you shouldn't probably say that, because that person does have a whole feeling and you don't know what they've came through to get to where they are.
Absolutely. So let's jump right back into this. Tell us go back through it, retell us the story, and tell us what you would do differently.
Perfect. So we walk in the door. He'd start yelling at my mom. Me and my brother would be sent to our room, but we wouldn't go. We'd stay there and we wouldn't have to run in the room, and we'd fight. I'd lose. I think it's important that I still lose.
Mm-hmm.
I'd lose, but my brother would win. And then my mom would join in. And then we'd kick him a couple times, and then we'd leave.
Mm-hmm.
When my stepbrother took us out with the girls, I would have stayed home. Wasn't that impressive? I would have never pissed in the plant. Kind of was tacky.
Yeah.
I realized that later. But, okay, so we left the house.
Right.
And I wouldn't have came back to the house. When I went back in the morning, my mom wouldn't have had to clean up all the stuff that her kids did that she never even brought up that she had to do. She wouldn't have to.
This is important. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pause you right here for a second. Let's discuss this. So you felt extremely guilty about having to put your mom through that.
Yes.
Right? Because I guess in your head, you must have felt that you were inflicting pain on your stepfather, but in actuality, it was your mother who suffered at your hands, correct?
Exactly. And I thought, and I had anger towards her, because in my mind, the reason that we were going through what we were going through was her fault. And it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was a connection of all of our faults. It was a perfect list of events. Had I not did what I did, she probably wouldn't have had to go through what she, so it wasn't. She was the light in the whole story.
Do you think that your actions had any bearings on her return? In other words, was she going to return anyway? Or do you think part of the reason she returned was to clean up your mess and then they were able to talk it through?
No, she was going to return anyway.
Okay.
My mom's mom died when she was 12. Mm-hmm. So my mom never had a mom. My mom has always been a survivor and will do whatever it is for her kids. And in her mind, what was best for her kids was to go back somewhere that was financially stable, even if she had to be physically abused, to make sure that her kids were financially stable. And as a kid, you just don't know that.
Okay, go on. I have more questions.
So my mom would still go back,
mm-hmm.
because that's my mom. And my brother's going to fake an asthma attack. He just hated being around the guy, in which I understand. The car ride after, I would have taken the chance to explain to him why I thought it was wrong for men to hit women. Because I had all this anger towards him, but never expressed why I was so mad at him. I assume people figured it out since he kicked people in their chest and I was like a kid. But just in case he wasn't clear, I never took the time to explain to him that I was angry with him and everything he did upset me because he hurt the one person that I loved the most repeatedly. And I wasn't big enough to do anything about it. So I just was mad. I had a mad childhood because I couldn't stop the monster, or I couldn't do it. Not for lack of trying. Like I said, I was great at taking a punch. It took 14, 15 when I started landing them back. I was a beast. But them first couple of years of my life, it was just learn how to take it.
Right.
That's a horrible way to have a childhood.
Look, I want to say I appreciate that that you come, you know, you can come and tell such a serious story, and one that's not comical at all, but you found ways to keep it light. You know what I mean? A lot of you here, you can't see Will's face as I can as we're recording this. He finds the points of levity, and he makes faces to accentuate some of the more comical points. And I think that it's important for you guys to understand that this is his story, and he's sharing it, but doesn't seem to be sharing it in the heaviest of ways, if you will. Would you disagree, Will? Am I misreading?
No, I don't disagree. You have to love the things that you hate sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's just that you have to look at them that way. Like some things that you hate made you who you are. And if you love who you are, you have to love them because that's what you came from.
Absolutely. Now, in one of the revisions that you made is that your brother wins the fight.
Yes.
Walk me through how you feel that would have made a difference.
I feel it would have made a difference because I feel like my stepdad would have understood that you can't do that to people, right? Like when you're like a bully and no one kicks your butt, you stay being a bully.
Right.
When you're a bully and someone kicks your butt, yeah, if it really means something to you, you'll go for another fight, but you'll cool out. It was important for my brother to win the fight so my mom felt protected. And she knew that these kids and these young men that she had would not let anything happen to her and that we could actually stand up and fight. It would be important for me to lose because had I won, I would have been horrible at that age, and I would have tried to start a fight every morning, like on my way to school, like wake him up, see what he's doing. You know,
right.
It wasn't good that I would have won, but my brother has very been humble, and he's always the big science camp and intelligent type guy, and he could have, if he would have won, he wouldn't have been the type that would go in there every time they had a fight. But he wouldn't let anything happen to my mom, and she needed to see more women need to see themselves protected. Like you remember the olden days where one be like, I'm gonna get my uncle, I'm gonna get Ronnie, he gonna come down here. More people need to know, whether it's by son or by brother or hopefully by husband or life mate, you're protected and you're safe. And I feel like that the two things of him not or us not reassuring her she was safe helped cause her go back, because she didn't know how to navigate in the world without someone, because she had became codependent because she grew up without a mom. And me not having a conversation with him, which drove us further apart, and we never got any closer, and it got much worse. But not having that conversation to say, this is why I hate you. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's not like it made the day any different. He didn't come home and rub my head and be like, good boy. Yeah. So I should have said it. And then when he was out there drowning in the water, I should have drove off in his truck. I should have just got in the car and just drove off. I had the keys. They were in the car. I should have just drove off and just seen what happened. Maybe I would have got in a lot of trouble when I got back, but I should have just gave it a shot. If I was going to drive home anyway, I should have left him there.
Yeah, wow. Okay, let me ask you this. What was his intent, I guess, in taking you on this fishing trip?
I would assume to belittle me and to threaten me. But in his mindset, I think he wanted to show me that he was a man and I was not.
I see. My first thought as you were telling the story was that maybe he would take this as an opportunity to help heal and, and work on the relationship between the two of you, some bonding time. But it doesn't seem like that's what it was.
I actually thought he was going to take me out there and kill me. Because I said some harsh stuff to him, and he portrayed himself as this, you don't want to cross me because you'll end up losing. That's what he used to say. So he portrayed himself as like this beast that I thought he was going to take me out there when nobody else is around, kick my butt, throw me in the water, and say I drowned.
Wow. Yeah, I'm literally speechless. I'm really sorry that you had to endure that. If you don't mind me asking, how did everyone in the story end up long term?
So my brother ended up growing into his body because he was tall and awkward back then. My brother ended up being like 6'6", like 280. And didn't let anybody push him around anymore. I mean, he was about the size of a planet. It was kind of hard to push him around. But my mother ended up leaving. Well, no, actually, one of the stories where I one day I came home and me and my stepdad had a fight, and I didn't lose. And the next couple of days, like I had to leave the house for a couple of days. The next couple of days, I came back to the house, and we had another fight, and I didn't lose. Mm-hmm. And he left. He left my mom without an income, and with me and my brother. So I started hustling, and I would sell like pagers and other paraphernalia to try to pay bills because my mom didn't have a job. And my brother, he was more of a straight lace guy. So he got a job at like JCPenney's or Marshall's or something like that. And we tried to help out. My mom ended up getting a part-time job, and I ended up going, I got blessed with a college scholarship. So I went off to college and studied law enforcement. And then I found out that was a waste of time. So then I started computers. And when I came back home from college, she had met another guy who was older, who treated her like the queen that she was. And she got remarried. And he passed and she passed within months of him passing, which, lets you know that they really loved each other. Because when you love somebody, they're supposed to die with you. So my brother now to this day is in Dallas, and he's a writer. And I came to New York, and I'm a storyteller, a show producer, and a comedy writer.
Wow. Okay. That's beautiful. We have a tradition on this podcast at the end of every episode where we asked our guests for a quick childhood story that fills them with warmth, and it's actually positive and puts a smile on your face. Could you share a quick, happy story from your childhood with us?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So a happy story from my childhood.
I know.
Okay. I got in a lot of fights as a kid at school. And my mom, as a mom, she'd have to come, whoop you and stuff for getting in trouble at school. There was a movie that I wanted to see called Interview with a Vampire. It had Brad Pitt. It was a scary movie. I've loved scary movies since I was a kid. It's in my blood. And I got in a fight that day because this kid punched me because we were arguing about something. And I didn't know that the kid was blind when he punched me. And so I'm in the office. They call my mom like, your son beat a blind kid. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So she gets there. She's very upset. And they explain the whole story. And I'm trying to talk to mom. She's like, be quiet. And as soon as they said, well, he hit him, but mom said, hold on. So he hit my kid first. They're like, yeah, but he's blind. Mom's like, yeah, but he's throwing punches. So he ain't that blind. So instead of getting in trouble, my mom takes me to go see Interview with a Vampire, which is still to this day one of my very favorite movies. Yeah. And there was a pizza place next door, and we would only get slices because it was expensive pizza. And she bought me a whole pizza. And we had the whole movie theater to ourselves because it was a midday matinee. And I got to eat a pizza in the whole movie theater with just me and my mom and watch the scary movie that everybody was telling me I was too young to watch. And she just sat there and held my hand, and we watched the movie and ate pizza. And that's my joyous, yeah.
That's a beautiful. See, I'm smiling too. That's a beautiful story. Also, you're gonna get me canceled because you've told one too many things to that. I shouldn't be laughing at you. Have me. You're gonna get me canceled. Like there's gonna be a whole Twitter campaign. It's all your fault. I just want you to know that, Will. Before I let you go, also the other tradition we have on this podcast is that we like to highlight a charity or an organization to encourage our listeners to support. Do you have one for the Revisionaries?
I do. The organization is called BOOM. It's Building Opportunity and Opening Minds. It's a organization, it's a nonprofit where they help younger children of color understand who they are through teaching them their history. They also expand past the basics of school. They teach them mathematics on an accounting level. They teach them how to balance a checkbook. They teach them laws. They teach them things that they need to know about themselves and just things that school wouldn't teach them as they give them a sense of self. It's Building Opportunity and Opening Minds. It's ran by a young lady named Jamie Jenkins out of Dallas, Texas.
Okay. Could you provide me with the link, and I'll put it in the description for those to go ahead and follow?
Definitely.
Yeah, as always, thank you for coming on the Revisionary podcast. I'm sure the Revisionaries are very appreciative to hear from you today. Do you have any final words before I let you go?
Um, Follow me at Comedian Will IT. I started a production company called Flying Black Unicorns. It's a production company for Black and brown art. We do comedy shows, we do poetry shows, and we try to highlight these industries that are predominantly white. And we still have a affirmative action hire. We bring in one white person or something, but we really try to highlight the minority who only end up getting booked one person per show and make it the opposite, where it's our entertainment and you feel comfortable.
All right. Perfect. Again, thank you for coming. And without further ado, take care, Will.
All right, have a good one.
The Revisionary Podcast.
So I really appreciated that, and I actually really enjoyed that story, and I'm glad that he was willing to share it with us, because there was a bit of candor and truth in it. You know, he made it as light as he possibly could, considering the subject matter. You know what I mean? Like, that's some pretty heavy stuff to deal with, and all things considered, I think he spoke about it in an appropriate manner while adding some levity to it. So shout out to Will for being able to do that, and I appreciate him sharing that story. And as always, I appreciate you guys. So, as I always like to say, thank you for listening.
This is the